Hi, welcome to Rifle Range Nature Park. This place used to be filled with plantations and kampungs. However, over time, as these places were abandoned, NParks has slowly converted this place into a buffer zone for Bukit Timah Nature Reserve. As such, while mostly filled with abandoned plantation habitat, this place is also scattered with native species dominated secondary forests. Let's see what we can find here today.
Here we have Makaranga bancana, a pioneer species, which means that it's usually fast-growing and grows between large trees. Its stem contains stipules, which contains sap to attract ants. These ants will then protect the leaf from herbivory.
So right behind me is, with the bright orange flowers, is called Spertodia campanulata, also known as African tulip. So one thing about this tree is that it is invasive. It actually doesn't belong here and it's brought in from other countries. This species is actually harmful to our native plants and trees, as it is fast growing and is very opportunistic. So it actually competes with the other trees and plants for the resources like water, nutrients in the soil, etc. And this is especially pressing due to its proximity to the primary forests such as Bukit Timah Nature Reserve.
So over here we have the Zanzibar yam, also known as the Batman plant because of its bat-shaped leaves. And this plant is actually highly toxic. And as you can tell from the name, it's not native to Singapore. In fact, it is native to Africa. And you can see that this plant grows very frequently on edge areas, so near the pathway where the soil is more disturbed. And that's because this plant is very tolerant of low nutrient conditions. However, since it is invasive, this can smother out other native low-growing species. This, along with the growth of the African tulip earlier, is demonstrative of the threats that invasive species can have to our native species, especially growing in areas like this where NParks is trying to actively rehabilitate it into a native species-dominated forest. Crikey, we missed it! Here is where we saw just now a green-crested lizard, or Bronchosella cristatella. It was once a common sight in Singapore, but however, over time has been chased out by the more competitive, invasive, changeable lizard.
Hello guys, so right now we're following this ant-mimicking spider. It is under the genus Corinoma. So the reason why these spiders mimic ants, there are two reasons actually. One of it is to hunt ants, of course. And the other reason is it's like a form of defensive mimicry. It's to protect themselves from predators.
As here we can see a dead leaf feeding on a leaf. Wait a minute, that's not a dead leaf, that's a grasshopper. That is a monkey grasshopper from the family Eumastacidae, and as you can see, it mimics a dead leaf very well. Similar to the ant mimicking spider, which mimics ants to protect itself from predators, this grasshopper mimics dead leaves to protect itself from the other animals that want to eat it, because no one wants to eat a dead leaf, right?
So right here, over here, we have the Pentis chrysalis, also known as slender pitcher plant. So to talk about this plant is that it is carnivorous. It can stay in a low nutrient environment, as it mainly gets its nutrients from the insects that fall inside its digestive fluids. And it also has a mutualistic relationship with a crab spider, where the crab spider will stay inside the plant and will catch the prey. Hello guys, so right here we have a Dermoptera, or also known as earwig. So one thing about them is that they have pincer-like cerci, which can be used as mating, attacking, or defending themselves. And there's also a myth around earwigs where they climb into your ear, but that is clearly not true.
Okay, so up there on that tree is a greater racket-tailed drongo, and this is a very beautiful bird. This bird has two long tail feathers. These tail feathers are possessed by the males, and these are used to attract females for mating. And the one interesting thing about this greater racket-tailed drongo is that they can imitate other bird calls. So this makes them very annoying for birders, because when you hear another bird, it may or may not be a greater racket-tailed drongo. Luckily, these birds are usually confined to forest areas and are not usually found in urban nature ways. Phew! That was a long walk. It's impressive how much biodiversity you can find in a nature park located so close to our urban areas. This proximity can be a good thing, as it makes nature more accessible to the average citizen. However, this can also increase the frequency of negative encounters between humans and wildlife, with instances like roadkill or even just insects getting lost inside our homes. This is why it's important to educate ourselves about our biodiversity and its importance in maintaining our ecosystem, so that we know how to treat our animals correctly and ensure that they do not get harmed. So the next time you find a moth or a beetle flying around inside your room, exercise some compassion and remember, they're just trying to survive. Thank you, and join us on our next episode where we explore aquatic habitats.